Well, welcome to the Maine State of Mind. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. This is my co-host. Yes, co-host. You heard that. Adam Morrisette. We are good friends. We've known each other for a number of years. It's been a number of years now, which is crazy.
Like almost 3, right?
Yeah, and we used to work together in the beer industry. We technically still work together in the beer industry, but we also like to talk and we chat a lot. And I had talked about the idea of adding a co-host with Adam to, actually we talked about on the last Hoppy Hour about you coming on and doing more things.
Right.
And then we talked about afterwards, like literally it was almost immediately afterwards, like maybe a couple hours of the next day. I was like, Adam, how about you just come on and be a co-host with me all the time? And he's like, I'd love to do that, man. So we're here. This is episode 53. It's the first episode of season 4, technically, of the Maine State of Mind. Adam will be joining us for, I would say 99%. I mean, as many as he can, as many as he wants to, going forward.
Yeah.
And so what we will do in the future a little bit is a little bit of, we'll get into it in a second. I'll get into it in a second, but make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook at the Maine State of Mind. You can also listen to us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube. Just search the Maine State of Mind. We come up on all those places, but be sure to subscribe, follow, like all that stupid stuff that podcasts say, but it does help us. I mean, in the long run, you want to hear that people are listening to your podcast, watching your podcast, and so on.
Absolutely.
And you can also reach out to us via email, hello@the-maine-state-of-mind, and ask us questions or, reach out and say anything you want. So, but with episode 53, this is me, myself, Justin Soderberg, and my co-host, Adam Morrisette, and enjoy, everybody. With this new episodes, we talked about being co-hosts and stuff like that, but we talked about maybe now that the pandemic is quote unquote winding down. I just read a post on Facebook that 98.5 the Sports Hub, all the arenas in Massachusetts going to 100% at the end of May.
Yeah.
And it's just back to normal as the headline. I was like, well, I don't know if back to normal is the right statement.
Is it?
Working our way back to normal? Okay, but back to normal, we're not just back to normal now. This is not where we're at. However,
lumber's still worth its weight in gold. We're not back to normal times, people.
Back to normal, yeah. So, but I think that when we talked about doing these kind of podcasts, we talked about the idea of having guests in studio, like actually talking to people and so on. But then it also gets costly.
Sure.
Because you have to buy more microphones, you have to have more setup, you have to have space. You also have to schedule those people to actually come to wherever you are. And that limits us with who we can get on as a guest, what time we record, because, if we're recording someone who works 9 to 5, we can't record between 9 and 5 if they're working and so on. Or the opposite. If we want to record with someone like at a restaurant or someone who owns a company that works during those times and wants to do it during those times.
Absolutely.
It becomes a little bit more difficult to do. So we will still be doing Zoom things. So thank you to Zoom, which is not sponsoring this podcast, but I'll just say thank you to Zoom. So there will be times where Adam and I are with a third person in person just because of the way it works. But I would say the majority of things we're going to do is me and Adam, and then someone will be on Zoom reaching out to us at their own leisure. So we're excited. I know Adam's excited.
I'm super excited.
And we're drinking some NA, what is it, Woodland Farms? Just a little shout out.
I was just telling my wife today that as Justin and I are moving into this new kind of thing, it was funny because we would get on these podcasts to talk about whatever. And then like 45 minutes later, we were talking about something completely unrelated, and which my wife was like, yes, which is how you talk all the time. Yes. So this is perfect for you.
Absolutely.
And so I think she's just excited that I have somebody to babble at that's not her. That's why she's encouraging me to do this so much.
And you're out of the house. I mean,
I'm sure that's all part of it.
Just a little shout out to people too, is that we don't care, but get vaccinated. Adam and I are both vaccinated.
We are.
And that's why we're in the same room and we feel a little bit more comfortable. We also don't do anything at all. And so we don't see people, we don't do things. I mean, I do work in an order brewing company, but I wear a mask all the time when I'm there. But yeah, so we feel that it's the next right thing to do. And if you have your opportunity to do it, do it. My wife and I were just at a doctor's appointment this morning at Eastern Maine on Union Street, that little medical complex.
Sure.
Walk-in vaccines. Just walk right in, say I need a vaccine. They sign you up, they poke your arm, and they schedule your second appointment. It's so easy.
Yep.
Now. It's so easy now. Adam and I had some small reactions, but not much. I mean, I don't think we didn't die.
No, I think I told you the day after I got mine, like if I had scheduled at work that day in old times, I would have shown up.
Yep.
That was about the level of but I would have been really grumpy. So,
which is typical. No, just
exactly.
So again, this is just a kind of a podcast. Well, I didn't want to do a podcast episode like talk to Adam when we talked on our Slack channel to just be like, this is what you can expect. But after got discussing and just jumping into a podcast that's just about a specific subject when we're not used to doing that, I thought we could do a little bit of everything on this one. So we talked about, what to expect. And I just ran over that a little bit. Like we are going to have more guests. All the planned guests for this season for the summer and into the fall are from Maine or have a Maine connection, which is something that I wanted to get towards when we changed the name to Maine State of Mind, which is kind of exciting. But I also feel like some of the pressure gets taken off when you have a co-host. And so that Adam will have things to chime in. I'll have things. There's definitely gonna be some episodes where Adam is more of the person to run it because he knows the connection more. Same thing with me. I'll have some things where I'm just like, I'm going to run this one and so on. And so we're excited for that. But also, I mean, we want to have some fun with it. So I don't think there's just this topic of, I used to schedule people do the interview, do the talking. I hate to say interview, do the talking. Okay, I'm moving on and stuff like that. But this is gonna be more growing. I think there's more with this whole idea of Maine and some things that we talked about with Maine being more Maine centric. Not saying there won't be guests that are from Minnesota. I just think that we're gonna try, of course, to talk Maine and Maine only, or mostly, and that includes having non-alcoholic beer from Maine.
From Maine, exactly.
I would say that we're the farms. I think they're the only one, the first one in Maine to have a non-alcoholic beer.
They're absolutely the first one that I'm aware of, and I didn't even know they were in cans yet. And my wife surprised me the other day.
It's good. It's really good.
It's really nice. It's one of my favorite NAIPAs I've had so far.
That nose is like it smells like a bag of hops.
Yep.
So we're happy. We're drinking in my Central Street Farmhouse glasses. Shout out to Central Street Farmhouse. But yeah, so one of the things we talked about with Maine is the cool things that are happening in Maine.
Yep.
And one of the we talked about cool older things. So cool things that are happening in Maine, I think is what we'll discuss. And this includes cool little festivals. Like
exactly.
You might see Adam and I at the Whoopie Pie Festival next summer. Like,
absolutely.
There's things that we might actually do that are like out and about.
Yep.
We did have a studio set up now, so we do have a spot to actually have a home base. But we're gonna go places and do things when we're quote unquote back to normal.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are some of the things that we're going to be looking at? What are the things what do you want to get out of this? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll take that as a just quick second to kind of say like my background and interest and kind of why, how that brought me to this. But Justin and I had talked a lot. Like I said, this started off, we were trying to stay focused on beer, but there's just so much more to talk about. Yeah. So we were talking about different ways to add new experiences to the podcast and to bring different, like Justin just said, I think being at these events is huge. But we were also talking about initially, I was, people that love to go explore these like strange sites in different states. And it started there, but that's not really my big interest because the whole spooky train's overdone a little bit these days. And so I was thinking, my background is in history and archaeology. That's what I spent majority of my years studying and working in. And till we kind of shook things up with my wife's PhD, and then I worked bartending for a while. But now she's done. She's teaching at Maine Maritime Academy, and so things are settling in. And so now I've got time to work on cool stuff like this. So basically, I just started making a list of sites in Maine that have historic value that we want to talk about, what it means historically, culturally. But ones that also do have a little bit of something fun to them. I mean, I'm an historian. I realize nobody wants like a deep dive into this one family in Castine. And so we're going to look at places I hope that have a neat history, but just some really like crazy stuff going on. One of the ones I saw today that I'm really, if I can find it here, interested in is, actually, I don't think I put it on this list. It's but it's in Falmouth, Maine. Okay. It's the Buckman Mansion. And it's just, or not mansion, I'm sorry, tavern.
Whatever.
Yeah, but it's an 18th century tavern. It's in the process right now of being restored by the Historical Society. Just looks like it has a really great story with a lot of just intrigue and funny stuff. And you can go explore it because it's still standing there. So that's the kind of stuff I'm thinking, like multiple ways for people to be interested without it just being laser focused on one thing.
Correct.
And
well, I think it's one of the things that we talked about, like the different places in Maine. Like when you look at the history of Maine, if you and I were in Oregon or Minnesota or something like that, there is history in every state. Obviously, this country is not brand new, but in the scheme of the entire country, we are older.
Maine
has New England in general. Like the history you can get in with, we start with Maine, but there's times that Adam and I maybe like, well, let's go to Boston and do something. There's this aspect of that New England is old. So
absolutely.
There's history to it. And there's fun things, but some of these things I think Adam's going to, work on, and this project we're going to work on is things that are not you're not going to read them at a rest area.
Exactly.
Like they're not like, you're not going to go into a rest area and be like, these are things you should do in Maine, where there's like old port and there's this, that, and the other thing. And this is some of the things that you're like, you had to do some deep diving to kind of be like, did you know that this is in Maine and this is, whatever it is. And so it's the same thing when I used to live in Lowell, Massachusetts. I used to, did you know that CVS pharmacy was started in Lowell, Massachusetts?
No.
I had no idea until I was doing some research about Lowell, and I was like, wait, CVS pharmacy? And then also that Moxie is not from Maine, the drink. It's from Massachusetts. The guy who created it was from Maine. And so it became Maine's soft drink.
Sure.
Because of him, but it was actually formulated in Lowell, Massachusetts as obviously like everything else in the world, a medicine.
Yes.
And so, but it was like those cool things that you wouldn't just, you had to stumble upon them to get there. And I think that's part of the cool things we're going to do.
That's exactly it. I mean, and that's why, like I said, I mentioned the history stuff, but there's just so many fun. I mean, there's stuff people I think know about already, but the International Cryptozoology Museum would be super fun to do a little special about and talk about. But I mean, there's historic lighthouses that are beyond the lighthouse. They have great stories behind them, just stuff like that. And I think and there's so many great people in the community to talk to. I mean, a lot of that stuff, I can probably within 5 minutes find a local historian or scholar or someone that can give us a way better rundown.
And we could do a quick road trip to Paul Bunyan.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Paul Bunyan in Bangor.
Exactly.
Road trip, man. We drive by it every day.
The Moxie Festival.
Those are the kind of cool things I think would be fun to do. We obviously like doing these things in the first place. This is not just for the podcast. So it's like, well, if you might as well do it and record it and do those kind of fun things. So there might be some remote episodes where we're actually like on site recording, but a lot of these things are going to be like, we're going to go explore these things. We're going to take some video. We're going to take some photos. We're going to do some fun things there. Then we're going to come back and do this is what there's some cool things, add some facts in there and so on. So we're not the people like, so our shot doesn't get messed up and our audio is still good.
Exactly.
It's going to be a quality product. It's just going to visit these places and do these fun things is what we were like hoping to do. And I think there's definitely, I was like cool with this idea. And then Adam and I met on Thursday of last week to talk, moving forward and what we're going to do and all that. And I was like, wow, I was really sold on it. And then we got discussing on our Slack about it more. And I'm like, wow, now I'm really sold on these things. And I think it adds that layer of creativity to, no, it wasn't stale, but it was just something new to the podcast. I think is fun, exciting.
Sure. And I think just the idea of being able to take road trips and check stuff out is great. And, those kind of things, those lists exist, but my feeling is always that they need updated every few years because technology gets better. We learn more. There's better ways to interact with it. So, I think this would just be a fun thing to work through. And like you said, you mentioned earlier, the email address,
hello@themainstateofmind.com.
And if you have any ideas of great sites, or, there's bound to be lots of them that I don't know about.
Correct.
And so, if there's something in your town or in your backyard that you think is just really crazy cool, shoot us an email. I'd love to come check it out.
I'm just excited because it's the Exploring Maine. Well, my wife and I, when we were going to go on our road trip or our honeymoon before COVID struck, we were going to go to Arizona and just do a road. We weren't going to like the Grand Canyon. We were renting a camper van in Arizona and driving and doing things. And I'm always like, oh, the ghost town here and this, and like seeing the state for what the state as a whole is, and not just an area or what it's known for. It used to bug the crap out of me. My brother used to come to visit me in Massachusetts, and I'd be living in like Lowell, Andover, Haverhill area, North Shore, and then get there and they'd be like, let's go to Boston. I'm like, well, yes, but I don't live in Boston.
No, and we have good stuff here too.
Stuff right now in my backyard. I want to go show you the restaurant that I eat at.
Exactly.
I'm like, I don't have to go So like I've always been bothered by, or like people coming to Maine specifically to go to Acadia. Like, yes, Acadia is amazing, and we'll probably end
Yep.
up at Acadia at some point. But like, there's other things to do in
Sure.
Maine, and I exploring Maine as a whole, and being in Maine and getting to become an adult in Maine, has taught me that there's a lot more to do in Maine than just your superficial things that you see online, like or like in the welcome packets.
And I think honestly, like you just hit the nail on the head. I mean, every place does, but Maine just has such that local history because of where it is and its relation to other places. And so there really is this kind of crazy history that just isn't published. No. And really the only way you're going to learn about it is people saying, actually, I grew up here and there's this crazy thing down the road. And, that's the way to do it. I think it's fun to find that stuff. I think people want to connect with things they remember. I think told you I was kind of envisioning this series being called like Vanishing Maine. Not that the stuff is actually going away, but it's definitely this older Maine that's getting replaced by newer buildings, newer infrastructure
and the stories are being vanishing.
Big time.
That makes any sense. Like, it's not just the actual properties that are vanishing, but like that the stories and the history and the talk about it is vanishing. So having a new, kick in the butt to it might help and bring some cool things to us. So that's one of the cool things that we're going to be doing as we move forward with this podcast and going into the future seasons. But also, like I mentioned, talking to we have it scheduled to talk to Jack Watkins, who owns Spencer's Ice Cream in Bradley. He's 21 years old, young entrepreneur, owns his own company. We have scheduled to talk to a couple of other restaurateurs and entrepreneurs in Orono, and other people in Maine, which is really cool. So Maine is the focus. However, these won't be taking over all of the episodes. Obviously, this is not how the podcast is moving. It's just as Adam and I look at our schedule moving forward, we have these spots where we're just like, okay, it's just gonna be Adam
exactly.
And those are the kind of focus we might have. And maybe like the next episode, the two of us were like, okay, these are our plans specifically. We're gonna go next week to this, and this, and we might have these small snippet episodes that come out. Or it's one of the big episodes we have. Like we did a big one, and this is a main episode. So our main episodes without the E, a main episode. So we're excited. I'm so excited. There's a traveling. Hey, first of all, with this pandemic, it's like
I know. That's what hooked me.
like just physically getting in the car and going somewhere. And we did that during the pandemic. We just didn't get out of the car.
Exactly.
So we went places. We just didn't go into those places. We actually, at one point, I think the beginning of the pandemic, we drove to my mother-in-law's house in it when they were living in Lewiston. This is probably back in the fall and the summer, back when it was the cases were a little bit lower and all that stuff. And we still got out of the car and they stood on the driveway and we stood on the sidewalk and talked from a distance and got back in the car and drove. I literally drove an hour and 15 minutes to talk for 20 minutes, get back in the car and drive an hour, 15 minutes back just to go somewhere and do something. So now it actually is nice to be able to have this place to go to like do something like that.
And really, I mean, great for, the people that are listening too, because I mean, they're thinking the same thing. So I mean, maybe you throw out some new experiences to go check out, and everybody's ready to try new stuff now. So,
and podcasts are great to listen to in the car. So if you were going to, if we have an episode on a specific location and you decide that you want to go to that location, you throw the episode on when you're driving to the location, so you have all the information to get to when you get there. And I grew up in Kittery, Maine, up until age 10. There's a couple of forts down there too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, we have in our own backyard, we have Fort Knox.
Yes.
Taylor and I went and got ice cream there, or in Bucksport the other night, and we sat in the parking lot across the way from them and read the Wikipedia page, like almost the whole thing, learning about the stupid stuff. It took them like 25 years to make it, and like like $1 million, but not like nowadays money, like then, which was insane. And then the government sold it to the state of Maine for $2,000.
The Bucksport area just really has a phenomenal amount of crazy little histories. I actually have Bucksport just as a separate thing on my list here, but yeah, I mean, just Fort Knox. And I think I was telling you the other day, Bucksport is thought to be the inspiration for the town in Dark Shadows. And it's got its share of just strange stories and occupation back thousands and thousands of years. It's just a really neat place. Yeah. My wife and I do that a lot too.
Play Dark Shadows, but like one of the cool things could be also, if we actually talk about an episode about Bucksport, it's Adam piggybacks that on with some information about Dark Shadows and like have that
absolutely
thought process behind it, or movies and TV, anything that goes around the things that we're going to, having that aspect of pairing it with something that's pop culture wise or anything like that too. So
so that's kind of, man, that's a great example too. You're saying all of this stuff isn't just going to be like, go visit an historic site. There's way more that we could talk about, but like Bucksport again, as an example, in addition to all that fun stuff, and now I'm going to butcher the name as I'm trying, there's a historic film repository in Bucksport. And it's incredible. Like I've looked through their collections online, but I mean, just like that, people don't know about that
Correct.
stuff. And that's like, I mean, that's just right down there.
And we don't blame you if you do know about it. This is not us saying that no.
Oh God, no.
Let us know that you know about it. So maybe you can tell us some information.
Yeah, I'm saying I didn't know about it, and
So
that means
doesn't.
like 90% of people don't know about it, because
I think we talked about it the other day with a friend, which was like when you used to be like, think your teacher was never wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, no. Red and blue make this color, and you're like, no, it doesn't. Like, well, Mrs. Smith said so. It's the same thing. If I don't know about it, no one else knows about it. Means everybody else doesn't know about it. It's the way it is. This looks good too. Look at that.
Ooh, which one's that?
That's the lemon quest.
Ooh, that one's nice, man. I didn't even know Dogfish was releasing one. And again, my wife came in and had a whole case of it, and I was like, oh yeah. Is that good?
It's yeah. So I'm wondering if obviously now they did, if it says Boston Beer Company on it, but now it does, because obviously they're owned by Boston Beer Company. But Dogfish Head. I
know, and that's why I brought one today.
Lemon puree, blueberry juice, acai berries, monk fruit extract, and sea salt.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I just thought you and I, every time we bring up craft beer, we inevitably talk about how Dogfish Head started it all for a lot of us in that age range. And so yeah, when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the cool things I didn't even talk to Adam about this yet too. Like moving forward, doing these cool places in Maine, and obviously I don't want to spoil them all by listing them all. Plus, obviously not bore everybody just by listing places off in Maine. But I think we'll start sooner than later. I mean, we are having the baby. Well, by the time this episode comes out, honestly, we should have had the baby, because
Justin and I aren't having a baby.
No, well,
I mean, Justin,
we might be charged in watching it one day. You and I.
Yeah,
the baby might be down here on the floor crawling around while we're recording a podcast. But but my wife and I are having, or again, I mentioned to Adam not to do it because this is new. So the other thing we're going to do is a couple things. Is we're going to be recording some episodes that are in advance. So it's harder to do things where you're not dating yourself. One of the things I'd like to do with these episodes of the Maine places, the Vanishing Maine, is make it so anybody can listen to it anytime. There's no like, hey, this weekend's a festival on it. So
exactly.
One of those things about us recording these podcasts is there's gonna be some that we're recording 2 in a day to try to get out ahead of ourselves. So we're not like every single night recording a podcast for something that doesn't pay us anything.
Exactly.
And so it's like, Adam, we should probably, make sure we don't mention anything that's dated wise on the podcast. Like we can mention anything that's happened before today or up until or after the 9th. But this podcast drops on June 9th, and I just mentioned something about my baby, which is born between now and June 9th. Yeah. If he's not born yet, that's a problem to me.
Full disclosure, I have trouble remembering what day it is most of the time. So if you think I'm going to remember where I am in a future timeline, there's no way.
So bear with us. Mention that thing. It's like, hey, by the way, this happens tomorrow, and you listen to the actual podcast doesn't come out for.
Yeah, it's all very timey-wimey, as Doctor Who would say.
But the having guests on and so on, but I also thought it would be kind of cool is to do reviews of things or talk about things. You talked about Disney Plus and all that stuff, but actually do episodes where you and I are watching, because we have a TV, we're looking at a TV right now. We could watch a TV.
Yep, totally.
And then be like talk, because they obviously for legal reasons we can't show the TV.
Right.
But if we said press play now, and if you watch a movie, they pick a movie, a fun movie, press play now, and then you and I have headphones in so we can hear some of them, or one headphone. So
I think that's outstanding.
Or even we don't even need it. We can just subtitles and just watch something and talk about it. So those are the kind of cool things I think we can bring on this. But Adam and I are both nerds in the sense that we can actually say that now, because 15 years ago it was not good to say.
Well, and it's funny too. I think as long as you and I work together, you get used to that work setting, and so like I knew you were a big fan of comics, and like I think you knew that I was a big fan of horror movies. But then the more and more Justin and I started, it's actually like we nerd out on pretty much all the same stuff, and so that also is what led to this kind of let's just talk.
Yes. and that's so you have to, when you make a podcast, you have to find a focus. And so my focus originally when we launched the podcast, and we launched it as just another podcast, I tried to launch it in 2016. I actually just found the original intro file on my computer, which is funny. It'd be fun clip to put out there at some point. But is I was like, but I want to just talk to people. I just
Yeah.
want to pick people that I know. I want to talk to other people. I want to do this all by myself. I want to talk to other people, and I want to talk to other people with passions that I have.
Yes.
So instead of just talking to one person with passions that I have to talk to a bunch of people. And I have connections that I've grown over the years. As you guys have listened, I have comic book connections. I've had hockey connections. I have beer connections. All those connections have been cultivated in my 35 years on this earth. And so I was like, let's talk to all those people.
Yeah.
And then I thought at some point I'm gonna run out of people are gonna give a crap about. Like at some point it's gonna be like, hey, this is my neighbor, and you're like, oh, who gives a shit about your neighbor? Like what the hell? So there was a switch that I needed to make at some point. I like the idea of rebranding, and we talked about that. So I rebranded it to the Maine State of Mind, and then focusing mostly on Maine, and then we can add those features in there. But I also feel like because of the things that we've had for subjects over the now, I mean. Yeah, like right now when we're recording this is a year of me doing this podcast, is having we have listeners that are a lot of comic book fans. I have listeners, a lot of movie fans, because I have two regular segments, or have had. Now we have a regular segments about movies and comic books.
Yes, absolutely.
And so like obviously we have a following of movies and comic books. We have a following of people who love Maine. So I think doing those three things mainly is the way to do it. So whether they're guests that are from Maine, or places in Maine, or festivals or events that are happening in Maine, or stories, crazy stories that happen in Maine.
Absolutely. Or like you said, I mean, or people from Maine that are successful in California now. I mean, we can, there's so many. And that's the thing, you know, it here too, is it's just, I don't know. It's a special place. Like if you live here, it gets into you, and you just you can't ever get it out again. And it's just that, like, it's that great community, and it seems small, but man, it's like everywhere I go, I can mention Maine, and people are like, oh, Bangor. Oh, you know, and I've even had people like out of state, and they're, you know, I'm like, we lived in Old Town, and they'll be like, oh man, I grew up there. Do you know so and so? And I'm like, that's crazy. I mean,
and 90% of the time you're like, oh God, no, I don't. Maine has 1.5 or whatever it is now. Was it 1.2 million? Whatever it is. Maine has a lot of people. No, I don't. Oh, it's John Smith.
I was gonna say, and I always say to Annie all the time. I go, yeah, Maine's a small town, because I do the same thing. They're like, and I, you know, I haven't lived here my whole life, so even then though, I'll have people be like, oh man, yeah, you know, John Anderson, and same thing as you, and I'm like, well, not unless it's the John Anderson that's related to so and so. Yep, that's the one I'm talking about. Oh, okay.
It always happens. It's like, hey, do you know so and so? And I'm like, no, Maine's big. Do you know so and so?
I do know them. Yes, I do know them.
I do know them. No, it's sorry. Yeah, I do. And so it's small. It's big, or it's small number wise. Has good number amount of land if you think about it.
Yes, tremendous amount.
And a lot of exploring, and that's what Taylor and I did this summer in our honeymoon that we went out to Sugarloaf. We ended up going to waterfalls. That's another thing we could do, is revisit those.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool places out at Sugarloaf. We have a place to stay out there, and we could record. We could go do something and record that night. So there's some cool things that we could be doing. I think the main focus is going to be on, again, talking to local people. And then eventually having some people, like I said, the connection to Maine. I mean, episode 50 was with Jeremy Swayman of the Boston Bruins, who went to UMaine. He's not from Maine, but has that Maine connection. And then we've talked to other people. Again, we talked to Mike McMahon, my buddy who runs College Hockey News, not to do a hockey conversation, but he talks about Hockey East, which Hockey East has UMaine in it. So it's
exactly.
And so there's these things that could have those connections to Maine that are not like, oh my God, let me see their birth certificate. They're not from Maine. And so I think it's gonna be fun on that side of it too. But then also going away from that and doing, you know, Adam and I talked also about, you know, what's coming up on Disney Plus, and
absolutely.
You know, and we were going to talk a little bit about that. We won't go deep dive into it because I think it's just all over the place on this thing, but like talking about movies that are coming out, and games that are coming out, and, you know, comic books that we like.
Or I've said I'm always down for talking horror movies. That's one of my like that's kind of my version of your comic obsession is a horror movie obsession.
And so those kind of things, food, you know, we could talk about restaurant. There's just a bunch of stuff, like a whole unlimited number of things we could talk about. That like you can tell we're excited. Like I don't know if anybody's listening or watching can tell how excited we are about.
Well, I mean, we had mentioned, and especially in this state where it's, you know, it's so accepted, and we've mentioned cooking with cannabis or stuff like that. We're not doing a goofy, like, you know, hey, watch Justin and I, you know, rip a big bong here. I mean, you know, but I think fun stuff like that.
Yes.
Find a local cook or chef that would like to come on and tell you how to cook with cannabis, or, you know, or without cannabis. I mean,
well, yeah, but anything you do, it's same thing with this. It's like you can have beers that have alcohol or beers without alcohol in it. They're both good.
Yeah.
And so cooking with cannabis, you could always cook with cannabis, but then also say you can also make it without cannabis. This is just
absolutely
this is our way of doing with butter, or with, you know, I've had friends cook with the seeds. I've had, and now with the way it is now, there's a third shop opening or just opened on Stillwater in Bangor. So now there's 3 recreational places in Bangor. 2 are within throwing distance from each other. One is the one that's over by, if anybody doesn't Bangor, over by Hobby Lobby and over by Big Buffalo Wild Wings.
Correct.
There's one right there with a new that barbecue joint. Axes. You can get drunk and throw axes. Sounds like a really smart idea.
I mean, it does sound like a fun idea, but it's not a smart idea.
Or you can go next door, buy your recreational marijuana, go out to your car, smoke it, then go throw axes.
Yep.
But my throwing axe, I don't know about the liability on. I just think about that now as a general manager. You always just think about liability on things, not what the fun it could be. But I can't imagine. I've seen clips online where people throw those things and it bounce back at them.
I always think, man, when I was drinking, like, I was perfectly capable of injuring myself. I don't need to pay to do it.
And so, but there's that one, and then there's another one if anybody lives in Bangor over by Bed Bath and Beyond area.
Yep.
Like over in that. So there's a couple there, and then I think I just think of it past it on Outer Hammond Street on the way up to Herman this morning to drop off Taylor's car with the mechanic. I think there's one Firestone.
I can't. There likely is. I mean, there's American Relief over by Natural Living Center. That's usually who I go to. But yeah, it's just growing more and more.
So that's America. It's not going anywhere.
No.
And that's one of the things that we talked about, which will be another episode at some point, is on cryptocurrency and investing. And we will. I thought about it afterwards too, and I'm like, I think we have to say that warning at the beginning that this is not investment.
This is not investment advice. These are not trading strategies. Do not listen to anything I say.
But I was thinking, and was like, I say investing in things like marijuana stock, because at some point it's going to become federal legal and those are going to skyrocket. It's like it's a little nest egg. Just put it off, buy a few stock, put it over in the corner. Don't look at it because it's going to drop and it's going to rise.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
But then when it becomes federally legal, that's going to, and so like you just, you know, pay the $15 stock, buy a couple of shares and hold on to them. So, but I was looking up,
and that's, you know, part of what I was, you know, really just saying with because I think another unique experience in Maine is that cannabis doesn't have that like weird, you know, cultural thing behind it. It's just everybody's cool and they do their thing, and it you know, doesn't make a big deal about it. But we've also now, with recreational coming in and a solid medical, like, we're seeing, you know, what a good system is like. Yes. And for me, I think, you know, I mean, I have my medical marijuana card, and so I think that's the other thing, is that there's a lot of people out there that use marijuana medically. Of course, we know this, but they still feel that, like, if they tell people, there's this stigma of like, you're a stoner. And, you know, that doesn't end until we just kind of all start talking about it, like what it is. Like, I mean, beer, it's beer. Nobody freaks out. And
nope. It's funny. I just had this conversation with someone on last week about being professional, like having the ability to say that you as a company or as a person, I don't want to talk like obviously about the person because I don't have the permission to talk about it, but I was just like, as a company, just because it's easier to say it that way, a company and flaunt the fact that you're a recreational marijuana smoker or a medical marijuana smoker,
right?
But to the point where he said there's enough people who would be like, cool, I'm glad you came out and said that, I'm glad you're open about it, but there's enough people who would say, one person who would say you suck. And he doesn't want to do it yet because that one person will say he sucks.
Yeah.
And I was like, when I say one person now, it's probably more like 60-40. So like 6 out of every 10 people are going to say you're cool about it. And then there's like 4 people that are like, I don't want to shop at your place. I don't want to support you or whatever. If you're open about it like that. And so we got to get to that point where it's more okay and more acceptable. No one judges, you know, Joe Schmo's salon or barbershop if everybody in there drinks beer.
No,
no one judges them. And honestly, to a point where there's places you go where people drink too much beer.
Yep.
and see what people still don't
Sure.
judge them.
And that's also, as it becomes more of the conversation, it's just knowing how to be responsible and talk about it as something that, for instance, like you just said, you're sitting around cutting somebody's hair and everybody's having a beer, or, we're sitting here saying I'm a podcast and we're actually drinking real beer, which I'm not, but, and it's just, you have to know when to not do it, right?
Yes.
Like, if you have an industrial job, or if you're going to be driving a car,
Correct.
for instance, I worked at OBC, as we've said, I have a small line cleaning business.
Yes.
And I never, even with my medical, I never smoke before I go do a line job.
What?
Really? No. And that's the kind of, some people do,
Yes.
but that's where I think we have to say, like, that's probably a good time to stop.
Correct. Well, and I think it's just marijuana, but that's for everything. Pills.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
Beer. There's a limit. There's a possibility.
But that, you're right. You hit the nail right on the head. That's the thing, is nobody goes like, hey,
yes,
did you take a Vicodin for your chronic pain this morning?
Yes.
And if you're like, yes, well, you can't do it. We understand.
And that's where we got to get past to the point where, but it reminds me back in the day of Lagunitas and them like calling people up to their freaking loft and being like, you want to smoke weed with us? Way before it was even medically marijuana legal. And it was like, they were just like, we're cool. We're the cool, hip, new people on the street. And we're going to do all the cool things. And then they got raided.
Yes.
And it was like, oh, wow, we're a company and we have something to like live for on this. There's a lot of people who rely on us. It's us. It's our business.
You're also a company that makes a food product.
Correct. Like there's things that you have to watch yourself for. So there are places where you have to be like, go ahead and do it because it's recreational legal. But there are places where you have to say, I'm going to back up for a second and not be publicly open about it because it may be taken the wrong way.
Exactly.
And that's where this person and I were having a conversation, and like they pulled up to somewhere and they'd open the van and the van would just have like smoke billowing out. And it's like, okay, we can do that, but like, let's open the van down the street, let all the smoke billow out, and then pull up to the parking lot. Yeah. And you can get out of the van. So there's this way of doing it, but it is, we're not going to do a full on start a new episode, new podcast on marijuana, but there'll be episodes that I think would be kind of fun, cooking with weed or just marijuana talk in general. Talk about the advancement from it being completely illegal to medically marijuana to recreational and we have some friends who are in the industry. Exactly. So it'd be fun to get them on as a guest and just talk about their input.
And that's the thing, because I think it's all about the normalizing it. And I think in the reality too, like we've said, is it is whatever you're feeling about it is a huge industry in Maine. It has created a ton of jobs in Maine, and it brings in a ton of money to Maine. So like it's something we want to talk about.
Someone wrote this one. There's an article about them looking at the laws for prostitution.
Yep.
And they made the joke too, just like, tell them all the people they'll be taxed and all that money will go to roads and highways. And I'm like, that's what happened too. We've seen a ton of money come in for it. Not saying I'm not advocating for legalizing prostitution, just so you know. I don't know enough about prostitution to say whether it should be legal or not. But yeah, there's certain.
That was not investment advice from Justin.
Was not investment advice. But there's certain things, like I said, if people are going to buy it anyway, why not tax it? Yeah. And anybody who knows who has bought recreational marijuana, it is taxed.
Yes.
It is. It's not when you say, "Oh, it's taxed." It is taxed.
And that's why. Yes, that's why when people like I've had family and friends in other states that are like, "Well, I don't know if it's recreational. Why do you get a medical marijuana card?" And I'm like, "Well, because a doctor told me that it would help me medically, and I don't have to pay the same taxes because it's not a recreational drug."
Yes. It's insane, and that's why there's things why there's also that discussion. That's why it would be great to have someone like our friend Brooks on to talk about things like that, because he is a medical farmer, and to have the idea that he was kind of almost somewhat against recreational just because of what we've done, how hard we work for medical.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, we work very hard for medical because it is good for your body, and now we're recreational, so people can just drink or smoke it whenever they want, and so on, and then the taxes and all that stuff. So it'd be good if we'll get that input on both sides. I think I like the idea when I had this discussion. I work for Warner Brewing Company. There's this tasting room aspect. What's the best thing about tasting rooms in this world is you can go in, try a product, or get knowledge about a product.
Yes.
Before you make an informed decision to purchase that product. And that's the same thing with bottle shops nowadays, with like places like the Beer Cellar in Portland and Damon's in Bangor or Barbie and Bates. You go into a place that sells craft beer or places like that, you can actually get information from the people to say, hey, I'm looking for a non-alcoholic beer that has a little zest to it, maybe some
Yep.
sea salt. Oh, cool. Grab the new Dogfish ad. It's cool. Whereas when when you buy marijuana from your friend,
Yeah.
you're like, I need a bag of weed. And he's like, cool, here. It's
Yep.
$40. And you're just like, cool, here. And you pack it in, you smoke it. It's like, the's no discussion. He usually knows the name. The person will tell you the name of the strain.
Yep.
But there's no like, oh, I don't really like that one. Do you have anything else? It was basically like in high school, it was like,
That's
so
cool.
that's what
Thanks.
you get.
Yep.
That's period. And the cool thing about recreational illegal and even medical, they do help with medical too, is with recreational, you can walk into a pet shop and just be like, hey, I want to.
Yes.
I want. Okay. So I'm having trouble sleeping. I'd like to be able to go to bed quicker. I'm stressed out because of finals. I'd like to, and they'll be able to help you with all this shit. Whereas if you just buy it from a dealer, you're getting whatever they have.
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
and that's what I think of the future has to be is like, let's tax it, let's regulate it, and let's let people get informed decisions about what marijuana they're buying.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Virginia, and Virginia is still trying to figure out how to do medical. Which the last I read is they're going to do medical, but just tincture. Which I'm like, come on, guys. But my thing is, so that was so interesting coming to Maine, where even when it was medical, but clearly everybody we had all decided we're cool with this, all of this. And that was just, that was such a different experience to be like, where it's not anybody's business. And everybody just minds their own about it. And that's nice. And I think that kind of another reason I think to talk about that Maine culture with that is like other people probably could stand to look at that and say, that's probably the way we should do this, which is like, you're not making me smoke it. But like, if it helps you, I mean, I don't care.
And look at the way we did the beer industry.
Right.
We were like looked at one of the pioneers and one of the greatest beer states in the country. So in all honesty, probably could do the same thing with marijuana.
Absolutely.
To the point where people respect the state for what we've done and when we dealt with it and how we've gone about it. And there's dispensaries and places where you can go buy your marijuana that are like world renowned. That would be the cool thing about, with Maine and having that aspect available too. So obviously we can do a deep dive into something like that. Talking about, like I said, upcoming TV releases, movie releases, Adam and I both watch we have Disney Plus. We've watched other stuff too, Hulu and all that stuff. And so deep diving into, a specific series or reviewing, we talked about seeing The Mandalorian seasons 1 through 2 and talking about that. And those are the kind of things that I'd love to be able to set up with and tell people we're doing them ahead of time so people can ask questions too.
Yes.
And we can give our opinion on that and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot. Like we can jam into a lot of episodes. There may be episodes that are like, oh, we're going to do 3 subjects. It's going to be, we can do, weed, alcoholic beer and CBD or, those kind of things. And it's like all in one episode, but we jump all over the place with those things too.
And I think that's, you said that just a few minutes ago and hit the nail on the head, is that I think with the kind of this going to a Maine focused, this Maine State of Mind podcast, like now you've opened yourself up to, you can do pretty much like anything you want. And, and that's nice. Instead of trying to think every week, oh man, I've got to do a topic on cannabis. Like we don't have to, we can do whatever we want. We can talk to different people. Like I said, the road trip thing is what I'm stoked about. And
maybe episodes that like, one of the things I like about co-hosts too is episodes like where Adam might be, like we may sit down and discuss it together, but Adam might be the one that's actually doing the traveling. Like if I'm like, hey, I can't get away this weekend or whatever, Adam's like, oh, Amy and I, we'll travel and go do this cool thing. We'll take some video. We'll talk about it, take some notes. And then he'll show me the video and the stuff.
Yeah,
and chat
talk about it.
And,
exactly.
And I can ask you questions about, hey, what was that thing? Or what was the coolest thing you liked about it? And we talk and we have a cool podcast. With a co-host, we can do this together.
Exactly.
It's a team effort, and having that on there would be kind of cool too. So.
Yep. And just like you said, I mean, we've all got different connections that we've nurtured over the years, and and so we can both tap into those, and I think it'll be great. Some new, fresh perspectives, and
and I think getting away from beer, 2 things is I'm beered out. Like, I talk about beer all the time.
Exactly.
I talk to customers about beer all the time. I talk to most of my acquaintances on Facebook, and the people who I talk to, a lot of are about beer. I had a friend visit from Arizona recently, beer. And it's one of those things that you can only do so much talking about beer before you A, get repetitive, and B, you're just tired of talking about it.
Exactly.
And that's why I like the mix up we've been doing on the Maine State of Mind over the past year is talking about a lot of subjects that I'm actually happy to talk about, is that it's not every week. There has been episodes where it's like, okay, I had a hockey guest on last week and a hockey guest this week, but they're different hockey guests. This comes out, when I, so again, not to date ourselves here, but I'm talking tomorrow night, which have already come out, and you guys should listen to it, episode 52 with Bob Kasich, who's a comic book artist and comic book creator. I've done a couple comic book creators, and I have a couple more on the docket that we can talk to.
Absolutely.
Because I think that's one of the other cool things about Maine is there's a bunch of cool artists in Maine, and I focus on comic book artists because I love comic books and I know them. I have the connections through that, but like there's artists in general that are really good in Maine.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that we get kind of the short end of the stick on a lot of that stuff.
I agree,
because we're way stuck up here in the northeast like this, and it's like when you look at a lot of the, we talked discussion with a friend the other day about bands on the other podcast that I host, which is the Rockin' the Dad Pod with my friend Brian. We talked about how people don't go to shows. Like there's no shows anymore.
No,
there's no like local shows anymore. And this is not COVID. Like COVID obviously screwed a lot of that up. But like in Maine, there used to be every single weekend, someone would be like, hey man, this country show is happening here, or this acoustic show is happening here, or this hardcore or metal show is happening here. And every weekend there was something to do. And it was like cool. There was tons of bands out there to follow. And it was, there's a couple things that could have changed it, which one is the internet could have changed it because I can listen to these bands whenever I want, however I want. And you only used to have to go listen to these bands. But I also feel like it's just in Maine, it just died out. And then when he's like, a friend of mine just texted me because I've started a band. And he's like, who's in it? Yeah, Wayne's in it. Yeah. Is Anthony in it? Yeah. Is James in it? Yep. Is so-and-so's in it? It's like all these recycled
exactly,
bands. And so, but there's art in Maine, music in Maine. There's something we should.
There's filmmaking in Maine. There's so much talent.
It's where we start. I focus on comic books, and I think we still will because we both are into comic books.
Exactly.
So going forward, I have, one just came out, like I said, a couple weeks ago, which is with Bob Kasich, of a comic book creator, who's done a Last Ronin variant cover. He's also came out. He's gonna be at Comic-Con and all that stuff. But also, like I've talked to Ben Bishop, and I'll be coming up talking to some other people in this season that we'll be able to discuss comic books with people, which is badass. And so, Bangor Comic and Toy Con is this fall. We'll be there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So that's pretty exciting too. So we're really excited to do a bunch of things. And that's one of those things about touring, not touring. I'll call it touring.
Let's call it touring.
It's fun. Touring.
Yeah.
I'm going on tour. But going to places and talking to them. So that will be one of those remote ones I'm talking about. So we're going to hopefully be at, the plan is to be at Bangor Comic and Toy Con the first weekend in October to discuss all kinds of shit with the people from the Comic-Con. So we'll hopefully have a remote table where we can just sit down, people can walk over, talk to us,
absolutely,
hang out, and then release the episode on that too. So
I love that idea of kind of the drop in, drop out. Yeah, that's really cool.
And just do 15 minutes, like 5 minutes, whatever it is. What do you have?
Whatever you got.
Come on. 10 minutes.
Yep, exactly.
And I will be able to, we talk about beer. I will be able to entice people because we'll have beer there too. So hey, come over, have a beer, sit down, have a conversation, and hang out with us and see what we can get to talk to. Because there's some cool guests. I mean, April O'Neil from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
So excited.
She'll be there. We got the guys from Clerks are going to be there. We just found out Noah, who played Atreyu on The Neverending Story, will be there.
My wife was the most excited about that one.
And so there's a bunch of cool people. So we're hoping to get some of those people on either prior via Zoom or in person on that time too, which would be really cool and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We're excited for that. So I'm pumped about that. So and lastly, as we finish up here talking about what to expect and some of the cool things we're going to be doing, is Adam also will hopefully be joining us for some of the upcoming movie nights and comic book themed podcasts. Absolutely. With the pull list. So like the pull list will those two segments will morph a little bit to the point where I don't want to do like a top 10 list for me and top 10 list for Adam and top 10 list for Paul or for Josh, but maybe we'll talk this discussion in our Slack ahead of time. We've come up with, this is the Maine State of Mind's 10 movies or whatever. So exactly. We discuss it. We say, hey, do you mind putting it? And they don't have to be in order. I like the idea of this is my favorite, but like you can say, hey, we're doing our favorite comedies. And you can be like, my favorite comedy is this. Yep. But it doesn't have to be number one on the list. It just be, we do our top 10 as in the top 10 for all of us so that we each get to pick a few. And so my guess is that there'll be some, when I did those episodes with Josh, there's a bunch of times we've done doubles. And then technically there's so it'd be nice just to have 10 good movies to watch or 10 good comic books to read. and so on. So I think we've got ones coming up cool that are, I think we're going to do like iconic comic books moments. Be one of them potentially. And then I think Josh and I talked about doing just upcoming movies.
Sure.
Because there's movies coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? There's movies coming into the theaters again. What? And so just talking about.
I don't hold on to that AMC stock.
Yes. You still have your GameStop stock?
No, I never had any.
I did it and then sold it. I made a little bit, but not a lot. I did buy more cryptocurrency this morning.
Oh man!
This morning, yesterday. What was the one you told when you were? So I've got Dogecoin, I've got Bitcoin, I've got Ethereum.
Yep.
I bought that because it had crashed.
Yeah.
Well, it's crashing even more.
It's a little bit of a rough day today,
but those are the kind of fun things to talk about too. Oh, Bitcoin's down too. Jeez, Bitcoin's down a lot.
Yeah, Elon Musk has got the Bitcoin needle going back and forth.
But Dogecoin has stayed right around that 50 cent mark. It's at 49 cents right now. So, Adam and I that's gonna be a fun one too because we're gonna talk some cryptocurrency.
Yes,
that's gonna be
my one little adage I'll make about that was the Elon Musk thing going on, and I'll make no commentary about whether anybody likes Elon Musk or doesn't like Elon Musk. Just that there was a Twitter thread. He was replying to somebody, and they were saying everybody in the thread's like, "This guy, what does he know?" And then finally, like the bottom, he responds, and he's like, "Hey, I don't know, people. Maybe the guy that created PayPal knows a little bit more about finance than you think he does." And I was like, "Yeah."
Mic drop.
Yep.
See you later. And those are the other fun things, and that's the fun stories to do too. Is that people don't know? Those are the kind of cool stories that people don't know. Is that Elon Musk started PayPal?
Yeah,
and there's other companies that too. You look at some things, you're like,
I hear
what they
I see it in the threads all the time. People are like, "What does the electric car guy know about currency?" And then the electric car guy's like, "Ooh, well, we started with PayPal." I'm like, "Ooh, burn."
And he has a lot more currency than you do.
Well, yeah.
That's the other thing is if you weigh he could Scrooge McDuck money over there, and you've got your little pennies. Yeah, he also has a lot more money than you. But he was saying that he might accept. So he stopped allowing Bitcoin to be used, but he said he might allow Dogecoin to be used to buy Teslas in the future. So hopefully that makes that a little higher up there.
Pretty soon we can get the Maine State of Mind Tesla.
How about we just make our own cryptocurrency?
Yeah, we can do that.
The $, Maine.
Oh man.
ME, $, ME.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. The Me coin.
Me coin. We're gonna be worth 0.0000001 cents per
till we get Elon on board.
Then
we're gonna
all and sell it all, and then
we're gonna have to find a poor man's Elon Musk. He's not gonna talk to us. We're gonna have to get I don't even know.
Well, I mean, we should talk to a car dealership, right? Because all he knows is about his cars.
That's right.
Just get the Quirk family involved.
Some people get Elon. We'll get the owner of a local chain of string of McDonald's or something. But used car dealerships. Yeah.
What does he know about?
What is your coin for? Buying used coins or used cars in Maine?
You can only buy used Saturns in Maine. That's the only way the cryptocurrency works. The car company doesn't even make cars anymore.
Oh my God.
Those used now. But that's the hijinks and the off topicness too. So I can't promise that if we pick a topic that it's going to stay on that topic, because one thing could happen where we're like, oh, this is a cool beer. And then the blue cap. Did you know the Blue Jays are playing baseball right now? I've got an NFT Blue Jays card. It's
it'll go somewhere else. Yep.
This all the way to something else, which would be fun.
NFTs. That's another fun one we can mess with one day. NFTs, we can look at we can look at all of our digital collectibles.
I tried to get in that this weekend. I just got my head hurt.
It's a little bit of a curve.
My head hurt trying to explain to what it was to Cassie.
Ooh,
and then I was trying to explain it to
Miranda. It's hard to
later.
It's hard to explain.
I had a couple of coworkers that it just didn't click, and then I was trying to explain it to someone else, and then they were talking about Bitcoin. There's no actual coins. I'm like, okay, I can't. I'm lost now. I can't. If you don't understand that part, I can't get into blockchains and all this other crap. No, there's no such thing as a coin. There's no such thing as a Bitcoin, even though the logo. Yes. Okay. Moving on.
Yes.
From that, so, so we'll go on some tangents. We'll have some fun.
Yep.
But I hope this didn't scare you away from other episodes with Adam and I. No. We'll be back, I believe, next week with a new guest. I don't even know what it was off the top of my head. I should look it up because I didn't get prepared for this. What do you think it is? You think it's a new guest next week?
If you don't know that, I sure don't know.
I'm wicked organized, just so everybody knows. I am super organized.
He is super organized.
My spreadsheet for guests are color coordinated, whether or not they've agreed to do it or not, and stuff like that. But next week is Galactic Comics, Paul Eaton will be on
Yes.
to talk. Again, these are because I'm having the baby, or this should have had the baby by this episode. A lot of these are recorded way in advance to prepare myself to it. So this episode with Paul Eaton, Galactic Comics about superpowers, is pre-recorded.
Right.
So it's technically being recorded after this episode.
Yes.
So it is after this following episode, but it hasn't. By the time this comes out, it would have been recorded a few weeks prior. And then after that, we'll have I believe Mark Horton will be on to talk from Woodman's Brewing or Woodman's Brew Pub. And then after that is Jack Watkins of Spencer's Ice Cream in Bradley, which will be fun. So I think we got some cool ones coming up.
Absolutely.
Some fun ones. Maybe a trip to Portland in the end of the summer to talk to a couple of guys. We might be talked out of that one. I think I'm trying to schedule like 3 in one day, which would be crazy, but
we can make
it happen.
If we're going to be in Portland, might as well pack it in.
Yeah, pack all the people in. But there's also that talk where, like I said, I like the idea of Adam and I being the hosts, and we have our guests come in via Zoom. So maybe there's that too. So but anything else you want to throw in there right now? I mean,
nothing specific. I'm excited. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. It's something we've kind of talked about off and on, just with different topics. So I think actually getting to the point where we're going to start doing it's great. And the timing with the pandemic kind of rolling back a little bit is perfect. And, I think it'll be fun, and it'll let me and you mess with all kinds of different little tech gadgets, which we love also.
And that's the thing. We upgraded the studio, you got microphones, you got a new studio area here.
I've got my gimbals and my tripods for the video, and so we're ready to go.
I'm pumped. So, you can continue following us, look at previous episodes. This is episode 53. So there's 52 episodes plus some bonus episodes that have been released over the past 52 weeks. Pretty excited. It's June 9th. So it's actually been a full year since we've released this first episode of Just Another Podcast, now the Maine State of Mind, which is pretty cool. So you can go back and listen to all of those. There are definitely some that are really, really good that I hold near and dear to my heart. And going towards the future, though some of those guests will come back. Because it was a lot of fun to talk to them in the first place, and it'd be nice to get Adam in on a lot of those conversations.
Absolutely.
As well. But you can Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and then a lot of them are via video on YouTube as well. Some of them, like the comic book ones and the movie ones, those ones are, I would say, in the future moving forward. And some of our Vanishing Maine ones are going to be ones that you can listen to in the car. We're going to do our best to make it so that you can listen to them audio wise.
Yes,
absolutely. There will be some that we're going to recommend you watch the video on YouTube just because of the visual aspect of it as well.
We'll absolutely be mindful though of the narration of the video being just stand on its own.
And maybe every once in a while we'll do a live stream. Who knows? We'll see how that works. But that'd be kind of a fun one to do, a live stream at some sort of something that's happening. Maybe we'll do a live stream for the some sort of presidential address, or the State of the Union next year.
Live from the balcony at OBC.
It's just something fun. It'll be fun to do things like that. But YouTube is where you'd watch the videos. Spotify, Apple, those are the places you can listen to it. There are on other channels too. It's just when you put them out to some of these podcasting hosts, they put them out everywhere. So search whatever platform you use for the Maine State of Mind. It's likely on there. I just think that the best places to listen to and the most organized and the best apps to use are the Apple Podcast app and the Spotify app. So those are the places I usually recommend.
I use the Apple Podcast app pretty much exclusively.
And also, if you have YouTube Premium or YouTube Red, whatever the hell it is, you can watch the video of this and then plug it into your car, or just have it off to close your phone down, and actually still play the audio. So
that's great.
And then you can visit themainstateofmind.com, but follow us on Facebook, Instagram at The Maine State of Mind. You can email us hello@themainstateofmind.com, all spelled out.
Absolutely.
It's fun.
Remember that email address. Like I said, if you have any good ideas for places to visit, just fire it over to us, because I'm ready to take some trips. So.
Absolutely. And share with your friends if you think that they like Maine or things about Maine, or people who have moved out of the state of Maine and want to, reconnect with some of the people.
Or if they're looking to come visit Maine.
Correct. And so, but that's Adam.
I'm Adam.
I'm Justin. This is the Maine State of Mind. I really appreciate everybody listening to it. Welcome to season 4.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. See you guys later.
See you guys.